Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Alpharetta City Council. We appreciate you joining us this evening. I'll note for the record that all members of council are present and accounted for, except for Councilman Binder and Mayor Pro Tem Dan Merkel, but neither of them will be joining us this evening out of an abundance of precaution, feeling a little under weather. And as always, we begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, please stand and join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first part of tonight's meeting will be the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of two items. The first one is the council meeting minutes from our meeting of February 7th, 2022. Second is two alcoholic beverage license applications, one being PH-22-AB-01 Naughty Dog Grill, LLC, 10 North Broad Street, Alpharetta, Georgia 30009, and the second being PH-22-AB-01 Tony Sports Grill, DBA Tony Sports Grill, 7955 North Point Parkway, Alpharetta, Georgia 30022. There is a third consent agenda item, and that is the approval of mediated settlement agreement, Oliviere versus City of Alpharetta et al. Is there anyone who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Mitchell, and that was to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor of passing the consent agenda vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Next part of tonight's meeting will be the boards and commission appointments, and I believe Councilman Mitchell has some appointment to make.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to thank Larry Atkins for serving for 10 years on our planning commission. And through his own volition, he's decided to step down. And I'd like to nominate Ms. Martine Zarikis, who has also served on our planning commission. And she makes great calls. She studies hard, and I think she'll be an excellent appointment to rejoin the planning commission.
Thanks, sir. So that'll wrap up the boards and commission appointments. Next portion of tonight's meeting will be the public hearing items. First public hearing item is E-21-07, Wellstar sign exception. Mr. Woodman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item before you is a sign exception to allow additional wall signs and to increase the height of monument signs on a property in the downtown overlay. Have the overhead of the subject property, which is located at 2450 Old Milton Parkway. It's the northwest corner of Old Milton Parkway and Park Street. This property is zoned MU, mixed use. It's part of the Old Milton Holdings Master Plan. It's developed with a two-story, 40,000 square foot medical office building. The Providence Group is constructing townhomes to the north. The Foundry is to the east. There's an office building to the west, and an undeveloped property across Old Milton Parkway for the Northside Hospital is to the south. There was a sign exception that was approved on this property back in 2018 for Wellstar. That sign exception allowed 3 additional wall signs on the building on the south, north, and west elevations. And the allowable, in that case, the allowable wall sign area was aggregated and distributed to the various signs on the building. So the subject of this request, the applicant is asking for additional wall signage on this elevation facing Old Milton Parkway. And on the west elevation of the building, they would remove 2 existing wall signs on the north elevation of the building. So this would be the elevation facing the townhomes that are being developed to the north. They're also asking for an increase to the height of 2 monument signs. There are 3 monument signs currently on the property. There's one at this location at Park and Old Milton Parkway. Monument sign is actually 8 feet currently, so they're asking to retain that sign at 8 feet. They would remove this existing monument sign, which is 8 feet, at their entrance off of Park Street, and they would like to move and have an 8-foot sign at their entrance off of Old Milton Parkway into the parking structure to the west side of the building. So currently there is a monument sign at this location. It's only 4 feet. It's a secondary monument sign. With regard to the wall signage, the previous sign exception allowed a total of 5 wall signs on the building. This request would result in a total of 3, and it would have 34% less sign area on the building as the previous approval. As I mentioned on the monument signs, we do allow up to a 10-foot monument sign everywhere in the city except for the downtown overlay, where the maximum is 6 feet. So again, the applicant is asking to retain the 8-foot sign at the corner and allow an additional monument sign at 8 feet. The initial request was 10 feet, and they did bring that down to 8 feet. The initial request also included internally illuminated sign cabinets on the monument sign, and the applicant withdrew that request as well. This item was shown to the public at the December 8th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There was 1 comment in favor of the applicant's request at that time. Of course, in consideration of the review criteria for sign exception, the applicant's requests, we believe, can be supported given the use is in urgent care. We looked at this, since it's in urgent care, it provides emergency medical services for the general public. The request for additional wall sign does not exceed the previous request with regard the previous sign exception that was granted for Wellstar. In fact, the sign area is less, and the number of signs, wall signs, is less. And the request to increase the monument sign height does not exceed that monument sign height allowed in other areas of the city. With that, staff is recommending approval subject to 8 conditions. Condition 1, wall sign location, number, and size shall be limited to submitted plans dated October 25th, 2021, except to comply with the conditions below and the downtown sign code changes as approved by staff. 2, wall signs on the north building elevation shall be removed as depicted on the submitted plans dated 10/25/21. 3, wall signs shall not have an internally illuminated sign face. Wall signs shall be reverse lit or externally illuminated as approved by staff. Just wanted to point out in this particular condition, this is written in as a condition. This is not currently code, so we do allow a face illuminated wall sign. Before you this evening, later in the agenda, under old business, we have second reading of those downtown sign code changes. Those would be approved. We would no longer allow the face illuminated wall signs. So that's why we have that written in as condition 3. Condition 4, monument sign height shall be no greater than 8 feet. Monument sign shall be externally illuminated and in compliance with the downtown sign code changes as approved by staff. Condition 5, landscaping at the corner of Old Milton Parkway and Park Street and at the base of the monument sign shall remain and shall be maintained by the property owner. 6, property owner shall assess and replace dead, dying, and missing landscaping. Condition 7, evergreen landscaping shall be added along the north property line where sparse as approved by staff. In condition 8, public access easement shall be dedicated over the sidewalk at the corner of Old Milton Parkway and Park Street. So the sidewalk in that location meanders a bit and goes inside the property. We do have, of course, right-of-way at that corner, but since the sidewalk meanders into the private portion of the property, we wanted to get that access easement. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions for staff on this item? Councilman Dorito.
Mr. Woodman. Sorry, Mr. Woodman, what is the current sign height requirement in the downtown overlay?
The maximum monument sign
Yes.
height? So the max is 6 feet,
6 feet?
yeah.
And another question, with respect to Wellstar's operational hours, are they 24/7, the urgent care facility, or?
You know what? I don't recall offhand, but the applicant is here and
Okay.
should be able to answer that
All right,
question.
thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Thank you, Mr. Woodman. If the applicant would like to come forward at this time, now's your opportunity. If you would, please just state your name and address for the public record.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Guillermo Sanabria. I'm with Wellstar Health System today. And I'm here to add a couple of little things that were just presented. We won't repeat anything that you just heard, but I wanted to kind of point out, since we opened in January 2020, we've seen 90,000 visits in that facility, out of which 22 are urgent care. And we had 3,300 plus vaccines administered out of that facility. 2 years in, the one concern that we still hear day to day from urgent care patients to family medicine to imaging, it's that I didn't see the sign, I had to pass it and make a U-turn, and so forth. So it's a consistent just from our own community members here. And it's 2 years in. We thought at first that was gonna kind of die down as it became the norm. But we've actually sat outside, and if there's a car in front of that Park Street in Old Milton, which is a 4-6 lane highway technically, there's very limited visibility with what we have. So I'll defer to Mr. Dry here for some more specifics. Thank you.
Mark Dry with Caruso and Dry Design Group. We're the consultant working with Wellstar on the sign plan, so I can answer more technical questions about the application that you may have.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Dorito, did you want to follow up?
Yeah, just a follow-up question that I asked Mr. Woodman. What is the operational hours of the urgent care facility?
Right now, we operate 8 to 8, and ultimately, the latest would be 10 p.m. as our urgent cares from the health park's perspective operate. The reason being is that we provide a higher level of care if you're in a health park because we have CAT scan imaging and MRIs within. So if you go to a freestanding urgent care, you couldn't get that level of care. The idea there is to minimize the impact on our urgent care, on our emergency department's burden.
Thank you.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you. The sign, how are you achieving the 33% reduction? It looks like the signs are going to be decreased in size. Is that?
Not so much decreased in size. It's probably coming more from the elimination of the signs on the north facade that face the residential.
Okay.
So what they were finding is we had signs on the back of the building that were facing residential and did no real good. And so those are being eliminated, and we're just consolidating things on the front side.
So it's basically a net gain of one sign and the height of the monument sign, is that right?
We're actually going from 5 wall signs to 3, because we're getting rid of 2 of those that are on the back side, or north side, if you will. And the ones that are on the old Milton facade and the west elevation are pretty much one-for-one replacements. Part of the reason that we're doing this now, or Wellstar is doing this now, is they're going through a rebranding. So it was like, okay, now that we're rebranding, we're gonna have to replace the sign. Let's try to replace the signs as well as address this urgent care issue that we've been having.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so yeah, that's how we achieve that reduction.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
I would point out that on the conditions that that Michael was reading, the only one that we're in favor or in agreement with all of those, the only one that we are not in agreement with is the face lighting of the wall signs. This is something that, because we originally had wanted 10-foot monument signs, in order to address the issue that we have with cars parking, or not parking, but stopping in front of the monument sign at the corner of Old Milton and Park. So we said, okay, we'll give on that and go down to a smaller monument sign, but we really do feel it's necessary to have the wall signs be illuminated in a way that you can see them from a distance. And so what we would like to do is retain face-lighted wall signs as opposed to halo-lighted or reverse channel or gooseneck lighted, which is the other option. They're just not as visible from as far away. I think they're beautiful, but on a 6-lane highway, they're just not visible enough for people to be able to see them from a distance.
Just to clarify, I'm not familiar with the term face lighted. What do you mean by that?
It's where the front of the letter, the light comes through the front of the letter. Like
It's internally lighted.
it's internally lighted. A reverse channel is internally, but the light goes out the back and hits the wall surface. In this case, the light goes out the front of the letters. So it's, I guess, Publix has face lighted letters, I think. There's all of the, Liberty Village, the development there, probably 3/4 of the signs, that are wall signs in there are face lighted. So, and they're in the same zoning, so,
Any other questions from council on the applicant? Thank you, gentlemen.
okay.
Mr. Woodman, if you don't mind, could you come up and address the issue about the lighting method of the signage?
This is the change that the applicant asked for to condition number 3. So again, condition 3 was placed in the conditions because currently it is not in the sign code that we do not allow the face lit wall signs. Face lighting, and I think I have some examples, pictures that I can show you. Just bear with me 1 second. So this is the typical face lit signs where the light is inside the lettering, shining out through the face of the sign. When we talk about reverse channel lettering or halo lit, backlit signs, that's more like this where you have a solid face of the actual letter and then there's a glow on the wall behind it. So this is what the applicant is asking for, which is your more traditional wall signage where the light shines through the actual letter.
And what's the height of the signs there, the Kraft Burger and the Verizon?
The heights of these, I'm sorry?
I mean, they're asking for an 8-foot.
Oh, that's on the monument.
Oh, okay.
The monument sign, the Wellstar has agreed that they would do external illumination of the monument signs. So they would have illuminations external to the monument sign shining up at the monument sign. This would only pertain, the facelit would only pertain to the signage, the wall signage on the wall of the building.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
Any other questions from council? Thanks, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward, speak on this sign variance, now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that council approve E-21-07 Wellstar sign exception subject to the 8 conditions as outlined by staff in the staff report.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes and a second by Councilman Dorito. I'm sorry, I was making a note. And that was to approve E-21-07 Wellstar sign exception with conditions as read by staff, the 8 conditions. Is there any discussion? Councilman Hypes.
Well, I, for one, think these changes that you are putting forward are really advance the looks of the building, and, you know, your logo, I see, has changed, and it's no longer Wellstar Avalon, it's Wellstar in Alpharetta. And I think these are great changes. I want you all to know I'm sensitive to your request about the forward-facing lighting through the sign, but we do have an item coming up on a second reading, and that a lot of fine people have put a lot of effort and thought into that particular sign ordinance that's coming up, and without knowing whether or not it'll pass on a second reading, it is well thought out and well thought through, and you guys have been great corporate citizens and leading by example in our downtown district with our sign ordinance, I think is to be commended. So I did hear you, but I think there's a lot to be said for consistency with what we're doing here in Alpharetta. So.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve E-21-07 Wellstar sign exception with the conditions as read by staff, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations, gentlemen. Second public hearing item up this evening is CU-21-16/V-21-34/Custom Pools Atlanta, 711 Highway 9. Mr. Wood, once again, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. The next request is a conditional use and variance to allow Custom Pools of Atlanta to operate a contractor's office with outside storage in a new 3,000 square foot building on about 2/3 of an acre. Have the location map. The subject property is located at 711 North Main Street. That's the southwest corner of North Main Street and Henderson Parkway. This is an undeveloped property, zone C1, neighborhood commercial. Allows a contractor's office with outside storage with approval of a conditional use. Surrounding properties are zone C1, except for the property to the west is in City of Milton. This is the property that I'm referring to here. It kind of wraps around the property in this location. That property does, I can't remember if it's T4 or T5 zoning in City of Milton, which allows residential or commercial use. There are also variances with the applicant's request to reduce an undisturbed buffer from 50 feet to a minimum 15 feet. That applies. So any property, even though this is City of Milton, the zoning of this property, which allows both residential or commercial use, if it is zoned or used for residential, a 50-foot buffer would be required. So this is the variance they're asking for here. They also have a variance request for the 20-foot landscape strip along North Main Street. Basically, that landscape strip, they're showing on the site plan the area reserved. However, there are GDOT easements in that area, and it's unclear if they'll be able to plant that area. Just a note on the undisturbed buffer variance. The home builder of the residential development in Milton to the south here pad graded this site in 2009. They added in a little parking area here. It appears, due to its frontage on North Main Street, that it'll likely be developed for commercial use, but just out of an abundance of caution, we went ahead and advertised that variance just to make sure that we're covered. With regard to that 20-foot landscape strip requirement, as you can see, this is the applicant's site plan here. They do depict landscaping along Henderson Parkway. They depict landscaping within that planted buffer. There are some tree saves back here. You notice that there's no landscaping. There's just sod shown along here, along the frontage of North Main Street. Again, much of that area is encumbered by GDOT easements. However, we did note that there is plantable area outside of the easement and still in front of the building, and the new parking area that's to the east of the building. So they could accomplish the required landscape material just in an area back beyond the easements if GDOT won't allow them to plant certain landscape material within those easements. With regard to the conditional use, Custom Pools of Atlanta has been in business for about 20 years. They provide swimming pool contractor services. The applicant has described the use of the property as a contractor's office with customers by appointment only. The outside storage is for overnight storage of work trucks and trailers. And the applicant did provide examples of what that looks like. So these are the work trucks. They have trailers with some small machinery that they would keep on them. They are not proposing any kind of outdoor displays of prefab pools or anything like that. If you go further down Alpharetta Highway in Roswell, there's a pool contractor business there. It's more of a retail type location. That is not like what the applicant is proposing at this location. Hours of operation that the applicant proposes, Monday through Saturday, 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant anticipates about 5 employees starting out, growing up to 10 employees in the future. Just going back to the site plan, this is a 1-story building over basement, so there's pretty significant topography on the property. So this will be 1 story from North Main Street with a basement level at the back. The parking lot, there's 2 parking lots here. When you turn in, the access is off Henderson Parkway. You would drive up to the upper parking lot that's at the same level as the main floor of the building. And then this area back here sits at a lower area, lower elevation at the basement level of the building. So this is where the outdoor storage would be kept. You can see that would actually be partially shielded by this driveway up to the parking lot. And there are examples of that. This is just a front elevation of the building. This is from the corner of Henderson Parkway and North Point Parkway looking at the building, that lot to the east of the building. This is on Henderson Parkway at their project entrance, so you can see how you would drive up to that elevated parking area, and this is the outdoor storage that would be partially screened by this, as well as landscaping. As I mentioned earlier, there are some tree saves. They have a total of 5 tree saves on the property. There are 4 hardwoods and 1 pine, and there's a detention area. Let me go back to that. The detention area is behind the building and screened by that drive aisle up to the parking area. Looked at the trips generated from this use. We're anticipating about 5 a.m. peak hour trips and 6 p.m. peak hour trips. So it's a pretty low traffic generator. Of course, we looked at the review criteria for conditional use and variance. Believe that the proposal should not have significant impacts on the surrounding properties. They're primarily developed with non-residential uses. We do acknowledge that there are the residential homes further to the south. The applicant has made accommodations for a 15-foot, minimum 15-foot buffer. It gets greater at this location, which is the location closest to the residential homes further to the south. They're also proposing an 8-foot privacy fence in conjunction with the buffering, and they've actually provided, this is the Primrose preschool to the south, that is in City of Alpharetta. And the applicant actually did provide a buffer, 15-foot buffer along that area, as well as the privacy fence. It's not required by code, but they did provide that. As it relates to the variance hardships, we looked at the size of the property as smaller commercial property, the presence of the GDOT easements, and then, of course, that adjacent mixed-use zoning in City of Milton as the hardship. We do believe that the applicant will be able to accommodate the required landscape material along North Main Street. We did receive, the applicant received some public comments as part of their public outreach. The city also received similar public comments. Believe they were the same. Believe they were from the property to the south, from the Primrose School, asking about the proposed entrance, the buffering, and that construction vehicles not park in the street during pickup and drop-off times. This item was shown to the public at the January 12th Community Zoning Information Meeting. We did get several public comments and questions at that meeting. The applicant did provide responses to those questions and comments. Questions about what was going to be stored outside. Wanted to know if there'd be any chemicals stored on the property since it's a pool business. Wanted to know if there were any outdoor pool displays. Would the work trucks make any noise? Any of that outdoor storage, would it be visible from any of the residential properties, and how long construction would last? Planning Commission considered this item on February 3rd. Staff recommended approval subject to 16 conditions. There were no public comments at Planning Commission, and Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval subject to the staff recommended conditions. And the Planning Commissions before you this evening are Condition 1, Contractor's Office. They're recommending approval, and Condition 1, Contractor's Office with outdoor storage shall be added as a conditional use at 711 North Main Street, limited to no more than 3,000 square feet. Condition 2, conditional use approval shall be limited to Custom Pools of Atlanta. No additional contractor's office with outdoor storage use or subleasing shall be permitted on the subject property. Condition 3, contractor's office without outside storage shall be limited to office with customers by appointment and outside storage of work trucks and trailers with small machinery. Condition 4 highlights the hours of operations. Condition 5, site shall be developed and trees shall be saved substantially as depicted on the site plan. Condition 6, outside storage shall be limited to the rear parking lot and shall be limited to the storage of work trucks and trailers with small machinery as depicted in Exhibit A. Those were those photographs of the trucks that I showed you. Outdoor storage shall be screened from public streets except where visible from the project driveway as approved by DRB. Condition 7, per the property owner, work trucks shall not utilize audible reverse alarms on the property. Condition 8, swimming pool chemicals shall not be stored in the building or in the outside storage area. Condition 9, a minimum 15-foot planted buffer shall be provided along the west and south property lines as depicted on the site plan. Buffer shall be planted with a mix of evergreen trees and shrubs. Privacy fence shall be placed inside the 15-foot buffer with evergreen landscape material screening the fence from adjacent properties. Final approval by DRB. Condition 10, developer shall work with GDOT and the city to allow the required planting material in the landscape strip along North Main Street. If GDOT will not allow required planting material within the 20-foot landscape strip, planting material shall be planted at the back of the easement and in front of the building and parking lot as approved by DRB. Condition 11, building shall be brick and stone as depicted, and scale shall be substantially similar to the submitted renderings. Building architecture shall meet an approved style in the downtown overlay. And that is put in as a condition because this is part of the Highway 9 LCI, and the Highway 9 LCI refers to our downtown overlay as it relates to architectural guidelines. Final approval and design and materials by downtown consultant and DRB. Condition 12, if a dumpster is used, enclosure shall consist of materials similar to those used on the building, and a gate shall be metal and opaque as approved by DRB. Condition 13, North Main Street driveway shall be removed prior to the issuance of a CO. Condition 14, full stormwater management shall be required. Reasonable efforts shall be made to obtain easements to tie stormwater pond outfall through a pipe directly into the downstream structure. Sorry about that, lost the rest of my condition. Rather than releasing at grade, if tie-in is not possible, measures shall be used to prevent concentrated flow at the property line. Condition 15, corner of North Main Street and Henderson Parkway shall be heavily landscaped and include ornamental planting beds with final approval by DRB. And condition 16, signage shall not be internally illuminated. And that concludes the report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions? Councilman Will.
As it relates to these conditions, most of these are easy, they're construction related, but say conditions 3, 4, and 7. How are we monitoring that, and what are the consequences for violation? So
Typically, it would be based on complaints. So a lot of these, I can tell you condition 7 was as a result of the public comments at the CZIM meeting. So if we receive complaints from the neighbors, we would ask code enforcement out to the site and notify the property owner. If these conditions are approved by council this evening on this property, code enforcement can certainly enforce these conditions on the property.
And how do they do that? I don't know, so I'm asking.
Code enforcement would go out and, let them know that we've received a complaint. Typically, they'll give them an opportunity to resolve the matter. If they haven't resolved the matter, then they will be given a code enforcement violation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if we get complaints that they're working past the hours of operation here too, it would need to be brought to our attention.
I mean, I was in construction for 20 years. Sometimes you get done past 7 o'clock, so just curious.
Yeah.
Councilman Hypes.
Mr. Woodman, can you put up the southeast side elevation? As it relates to condition 11 and downtown Highway 9 LCI building architecture, is there anything about the fencing that's depicted here that's part and parcel of this application? Is that just a rendering, or is that something that's an expectation of the finished project subject to our conditions?
It would be, this is along a corridor of influence, so DRB, regardless of whether I had DRB approval of certain items on this, DRB gets a look at this, including the fencing on the property. We can certainly add additional conditions related to the type of fencing here. I think this is just a rendering. I don't know, I think this is the general massing of the building, for example, that they're looking for, but we have a condition that refers back to that downtown overlay. So I think there is an opportunity to improve the look of that through DRB.
I'm not so much looking for an improvement as to ensure it doesn't look worse. For example, if it's not a condition and the property owner has the right, maybe they want to put up an 8-foot wooden privacy fence all the way around on Highway 9. And If that were depicted here, I think that would be something I'd want to talk with them about. So I don't know if it's part of our recommendation, this exterior look on Highway 9 with the fencing. So I throw that out there. And as a related question, if you've got the side rear, I think it's right underneath your top one there. I don't see and don't know whether it's within our jurisdiction to require fencing at the top of the top parking lot to keep somebody from falling down and landing on their head in the lower parking lot. That certainly seems like that's something that the owner would want to ensure doesn't happen by accident, open a door and then take a tumble down, in which case there might be fencing there. And what will that fencing look like? Will it look like the fencing that's out on the side? Will it look like some other type of fencing? So I was curious about how this all plays with recommendation 11 and building architecture generally. Do you have any thoughts about this?
I would definitely recommend, I think it's a great comment. I think that we should probably add something to either a new condition or add something to condition 11. I can work on something real quick while the applicant is up. You are correct that there will be fall requirement at this location too. I'll try to draft something up real quick and bring that back.
So safety and consistency and look with something that everybody agrees, both the applicant as the owner and the city as somebody has an interest in how Highway 9 looks. You know, if we can get some kind of an agreement on a recommendation, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman at this time? Councilman Dorito.
Mr. Woodman, I want to focus on condition number 14. Talks about full stormwater management shall be required. Can you explain what that is for this particular application?
So the first sentence there is more clarification than anything. Our stormwater engineer, of course, reviews these applications, and she just wanted to make sure that it was clear that full stormwater management would be required. It would be required regardless during the LDP review. The issue here is that there is an ability, there is, I guess, an outfall somewhere on a property here, and she would rather tie in with a pipe instead of concentrated flow onto the adjacent property. So she asked for a condition specifying that. So that's what's indicated in condition 14. We can't require.
Because when I look at the rendition of the building and the parking areas, both up higher level and lower level, is that impervious surface they're going to install? Is that going to be macadam? What?
To the best of our knowledge, based on the site plan that's brought forward, we're assuming that these are impervious areas. The applicant is here and can probably provide a little bit more information. On this particular property in C1, I believe the max impervious that they're allowed on the site, I think it's 80% max impervious cover, which they are meeting the 80. Even if this is all impervious area here, they are meeting it. However, it might be something that we want to ask the applicant a little bit more
Are they
about.
meeting it because there's a retainage pond in the
No,
plan? Or?
the green area, I mean, this is all green around the property here, so this represents 20%
So that's included in the
of area.
calculation?
I'm sorry?
That's included in the calculation.
Yes.
I just wonder if we should have a more clearer condition on stormwater management, because it even talks about the possibility of reasonable effort should be made to obtain easements to tie stormwater pond outfall through a pipe directly into a downstream structure. I don't know what you define as reasonable. I would almost want to have them be more than reasonable to try to make that happen, so that we don't create a problem for surrounding properties from stormwater management.
Understood. I think her intent of stating reasonable and not saying that they have to is because we really don't have any control over that other property owner, off-site property owner, allowing that tie-in.
So should we not require, assuming that that can't happen, a more defined condition to make sure that they manage the stormwater on their property? I don't know what the capacity of the retainage pond has to be or whatever, but should there be something that requires them to make sure that they meet the standards to contain stormwater on their property and have it flow out versus creating other problems outside of their property?
I think that the stormwater engineer felt that that would be the preferred method, but they still could meet our codes in other methods. It's just that that was her preferred method, tying into that outfall. So she felt pretty comfortable with the way that the wording was here. I can certainly, when the applicant comes up,
Okay.
Kathy and I can have a discussion about it and may have some alternative.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Woodman, would you like to call up Director Sasevich, who as an engineer might have a little more insight into
Sure.
the stormwater
Welcome.
issues on this particular site? I know you were a bit distracted, Pete, but it sounded like we might need a little professional advice on this situation, if at all possible.
So this is the first time I've seen the site plan, so I'll go from there. But per our ordinance, they have to meet all the requirements of a new development. So they're gonna do their detention, their channel protection, their infiltration, everything we require everybody else. When it comes down to the tying in downstream, Mr. Woodman said it perfectly. Ms. Bazinet prefers, like all of us prefer, to keep it contained, pipe to pipe, so you minimize erosion, you minimize any water not making its way to the next inlet. But your statement of reasonable, I don't know how far downstream they have to run it. I don't know, is it all the way down Henderson Parkway? Is it just down to the next driveway? It's all usually in our right-of-way, so it should be able to be tied into, I'm thinking, out loud. But the requirements are there, it's spelled out in our ordinance. They're not doing anything out of the ordinary. At least I don't believe they're asking for anything out of the ordinary.
So, Mayor, can I?
Councilman Dorito.
So, just in layman's terms, the city has oversight when they build this, right?
Correct.
If it gets approved on the stormwater management. So they would have to meet city code
Yes.
without putting a very clear condition in
Correct.
the approval. Okay.
Just for my own clarification, Pete, wouldn't you assume, because I'm sure there's curb and gutter there on West Side Parkway, wouldn't you assume that they could tie in at their entrance or somewhere along West Side Parkway at least?
Is this Henderson Parkway?
Henderson, I'm sorry, what did I say?
Okay,
West Side?
It's all
My
right.
apologies. No
Yes.
wonder you look so confused. Yeah, it's only a mile and a half away.
Yes, there's more likely with the curb and gutter, there is going to be some form of inlet there, as well as across from there is the shopping center. Is that
Yes.
right there? So,
Auto parts store.
yeah, so I would believe there's also probably an inlet near there as well.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because you kept talking about having to go through adjoining properties, and it may not be the case that you would need permission if you can just tie in right there at the street. Any other questions from council? Mr. Woodman or Mr. Sasevich? Thank you, gentlemen. If the applicant would like to come forward at this time, now's your opportunity. If you would, just please state your name and address for the public record.
Danny Frankie, 4776 Mystic Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the property owner for 711 State Highway 9. I've owned this piece of property for 21 years. Purchased it back in 1991, and as a sideline, when I purchased this property, the neighborhood behind me that's in question with the 50-foot buffer did not exist. City of Milton did not exist. So at some point, they rezoned that to have a neighborhood there, which was fine. However, I was never given any notice that that was being rezoned and how that would impact my property. And in fact, had I known or had I been advised of that, then I could have put certain conditions on that development, which I wouldn't have had to do this 50-foot setback. However, we've agreed to a 15-foot, and we've agreed to heavily landscape it. We've got our fence in place. I think our building, looking at a 3,000 square foot building, is a pretty small impact on that property. It is only 2/3 of an acre, so it's perfect for our space. We need outside storage because we need to park our trucks overnight, but these are not big earth-moving trucks. We don't have any earth-moving or big excavator equipment. We are a small residential swimming pool builder, and we have small machinery, trailers, and pickup type trucks that we need to move around our stuff with. We're not in there every morning loading trucks and loading up work orders. That's not how we do business. And in fact, most of our trades are done through a subcontractor basis. So this is for a small group of basically our in-house people, and that's really what the overnight parking or the overnight storage really is. We have no desire to purchase or store any chemicals. We have no display. This is by appointment only. So really, these are for our offices. I've got my family here tonight, and my partner, Mike Sheck, and his family. And we are a small group. We're a small family-run business. That is our intent moving into the future. Both Mike's son and my son are here, and our goal is to provide a really good, strong environment for them to succeed in the future. I think Alpharetta's got a nice spot for it. And again, having owned this property for 21 years, it's probably time for us to move it into the next chapter.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council for the applicant? Councilman Hydes.
I had asked Mr. Woodman about the fencing and both exterior and separating the upper lot from the lower lot. Do you have any thoughts, or have you given any thought to how that's going to be addressed?
We have, and we give a lot of thought to, this is what we do for a living, so aesthetics is important to us. Not only just the aesthetics of our building, which we feel like is really just will fit right in with this area, be more of a farm style or a modern farm style home. We've got a privacy fence around the back. We've got an 8-foot privacy fence, giving that neighborhood plenty of buffer, but also giving us buffer. We don't want people looking in and seeing what we're doing there. As far as the fronts go, we think something like an aluminum type, something that's going to look good is going to be the way to go. If the city has a different idea or a different design, we'd certainly be open to it. As it relates to those walls, any wall that would have more than a 30-inch drop would have a rail on it, so we would certainly be doing that. But those would be more like the sort of the ornamental type, black, whether it's iron or whether it's aluminum. But for the most part, that drawing that we're doing, we're staying as close to that as we possibly can, unless there's some condition that wouldn't allow us to do that. If that makes sense, or if that answers your question.
No, it's a very direct answer, and I appreciate it. I think Mr. Woodman said he was going to take a shot at crafting some language, and maybe we'll have a chance to get your input based on what he has to say. And I'm interested, obviously, in the DRB doing what they do best.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Any other questions from council for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there is anyone here from the public that would like to speak on this matter, now's your opportunity to come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council? I'm assuming Mr. Woodman is still hard at work over there crafting revised.
If he has something, I would appreciate hearing from him before the motion. So.
I would just go ahead and propose it as a new condition number 17. I think it should read something along these lines: fencing along North Main Street and Henderson Parkway, and fall protection fencing in the parking lot shall not exceed 4 feet in height and shall be decorative metal as approved by DRB.
And what was the part about safety? I got fencing along North Main and Henderson Parkway and,
I'm sorry, I was reading fast. New condition 17, fencing along North Main Street and Henderson Parkway, and fall protection fencing in the parking lot shall not exceed 4 feet in height and shall be decorative metal as approved by DRB.
thank you.
So I've already called for the motion. Whenever you're ready, feel free.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for City Council this council to approve CU-21-16/V-21-34 custom pools of Atlanta, 711 North Main Street, subject to the 16 conditions as set forth in the staff report, with new condition 17 added. That new condition being, there shall be fencing along North Main Street and Henderson Parkway and fall protection fencing in the parking lot that shall not exceed 4 feet in height and shall be decorative metal as approved by DRB.
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Heights, a second by Councilman Dorito, and that was to approve CU-21-16/V-21-34/ Custom Pools Atlanta, 711 Highway 9, with conditions as read by staff in their report and as amended by Councilman Heights. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations. And I could have mentioned this earlier in case anyone has been sitting here waiting with bated breath for the item that was on the public hearing agenda that was V-21-33, the Sitco 174 North Main Street variance. That item has been deferred, so it will not be heard this evening. Next item up will be the service provider and partnership updates, first of which will be Mr. Brad Martin from Public Services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Glad to be with you again. I think it's been several months since I had the opportunity to speak to you, and we've got some new members on council, so congratulations and welcome to you guys.
Thank you.
Republic Services, I want to kind of start with kind of where we've been the last year and a half or so. And as you all know, the labor markets in the whole country, especially in the state of Georgia, have been very tight. So we've had a very difficult time hiring qualified people to run our collection vehicles and to, pick up the garbage and the recycling, et cetera. On top of that, amplifying that, making it even worse, obviously, the situation with COVID, which has been an off and on event for us since COVID started. However, back at the end of the year, probably the worst time of the year, it could happen around the holidays. We had a serious bout of that within the ranks of our organization, particularly our frontline workers. So I tell you that because we had about 20% of our workforce that was impacted by that. So pretty steep hill to climb and to overcome. So I know that our service execution for the residents of Alpharetta has not been what it has been for the majority of the 23 years that we've been doing business with you all. And for that, we own that, and I want to make that clear again tonight. With that, I kind of want to move on to where we are now, which is the good news is we have no COVID cases currently within our company. And we've implemented a few things that we feel like will kind of help us not only now but going in the future should we need it. We've always done our hiring and our training in a certain way, and it's more from a global perspective. And recent events have made us realize that we need to take more of a granular approach to that. So we've started and have up and running a localized hiring and training program, which I'm happy to report, which is the owner of that is our general manager group here in Atlanta. And we've gotten to the point where we have all of our positions filled to execute the contract for the city of Alpharetta. We're in the mode now of over-hiring for those positions. So with that, there's a certain amount of training that goes with that. We just don't hire people and stick them in a truck and say, hey, go pick up stuff. For those of you that don't know, it's a very skilled labor position. If you get inside a new garbage truck these days, it's like getting inside the cockpit of an airplane, literally. So it takes some training and some skill to be able to do that. And also, what makes it hard on the hiring front too is, you probably know this, but I'm going to point it out anyway. Being a garbage man or collector of garbage is one of the top 5 most dangerous jobs in this country. So, right up there with police, fire, all of that. Being on the back of a truck, in a vehicle, in the type of traffic that we operate here in the Atlanta metro is not an easy thing to do. So there's a certain amount of training that gets involved when you have to go out and fish in different ponds to attract and locate the talent that you need and then train those folks. The expense is tremendous, first of all, because we used to be able to not hire anyone that didn't have some kind of CDL experience. Now, due to current market conditions, we have to actually go out and hire people that are qualified to have the potential to do what we need them to do, and then we have to spend the money to buy their CDL class and then train them and then route acclimate them once they get on board. So it's about a 6-month process from beginning to end once you identify a person, offer them a job, and bring them on board. So it's not something that you can just go out and hire someone and stick them in a truck like I mentioned earlier. So with that being said, no new COVID cases, over-hiring mode, staff-driven training program. I do want to point out, too, that we've also, we're paying more benefits and pay to the tune of 20 to 25% more than what we've ever paid. We've always been at the top of the food chain when it comes to hiring and paying our employees and taking care of them. That has not changed, but that expense is considerably more today than it was 2 years ago, actually even a year ago. So I want to point that out. So one of the things that we've also been made aware of with all of this that's been going on is our communications piece. I've been having a lot of meetings with staff over the last few months and even before that, and it was pretty apparent to me that the way that we used to do business may not be the way that we need to continue to do business, meaning that we need to communicate differently, meaning daily. So we're having conversations with them beginning of every day and the end of every day with their customer service department, with Tom and his team, just letting them know, hey, we're route ready to begin the routes we need today, and then upon their completion at the end of the day, confirming that with his team. That way we're kind of all in sync because your residents primarily contact his customer service team when there's an issue. So where we are now, or I'm sorry, where we're heading, the tools to communicate, we have at our disposal, and no pun intended, but we do this with other municipalities. We have the ability to communicate directly with residents, right? So we can use a call them all or text them all technology if we have an accurate phone number for your residents. So in communicating with staff, we've been able to exchange some data and hear very shortly, if not already. Whenever there's a delay in service or there's an interruption in service, we'll be able to contact the residents that are on that route to let them know what's transpired and, more importantly, when they can expect to get service. I am fully aware of the issues with the glass, and I want you all to know that the glass is really a byproduct of when you have people shortages, you have to prioritize what you can do. And I think it makes sense from a human health consideration or viewpoint that you understand that the trash at the curb is more important than the yard waste or the glass, right? So if we have to push or delay a service, we're going to do our very best to get the trash and then prioritize it down that way. So with a number of the complaints on the glass, that's exactly what's happened. I don't know that our misses, I know from tracking them since the end of last year specifically, we're very high the first month and a half. And when I say high, if you look at the total movements that we're responsible for each day and each week, it's really a small percentage. But when you look at the trend compared to the average for the remainder of the year, they were double what they should have been. I have that specific information, but I won't, unless you ask, I won't give you that specific data, but it's double what it should have been. And we know that. So we're addressing that. And the good news is we're very close to getting where we need to be. We've got the people. We're in the midst of training the folks. The last 2 weeks, like I said, have been pretty normal. We're actually, we actually did make some changes. I'll point out Councilman Dorito brought to my attention a couple weeks ago some issues he was having in his area, and we were able to make a personnel change was the key fix there. I think anytime when you hire new people, not all of them work out. So, we have to know so we can get the right people in the right jobs. So we'll continue to do that and continue to get the staff that we need and train them the right way. And hopefully we can put a lot of the stuff behind it. But we do own the issues that we have. My goal here tonight is to let you know that we know what those issues are, and we're working very hard to address those and put them in the rearview mirror as quickly as possible. So with that, I'll open it up.
Have any questions from council? Councilman Dorito.
Mayor, just a comment. Mr. Martin, thank you for being here this evening, and I also want to acknowledge you publicly for being very responsive. I know Councilman Binder's not here tonight, but we kind of spoke when I was having issues in my area of the city, and likewise he was having them. He's liaison to finance. I want to also acknowledge Tom Harris and his staff for working through these issues. There's no doubt that what you outlined early in your presentation with respect to the impacts of the pandemic on all industries, let alone your own, the garbage collection industry, this problem exists throughout the country. So the fact that you responded as you did so quickly when we've reached out to you, either through Mr. Harris's office or directly, I just want to thank you for that. I do see an improved service level, at least the area of my city, that we have some issues. Certainly understand your comments with respect to the glass kind of being at the bottom of the totem pole. That makes perfect sense to me. So I just ask you to continue to do what you're doing and help us to fulfill the services to the residents that they expect and that the city has always provided. So.
Sure, I will. Thank you. I would like to add to that my experience with dealing with the residents of your fine city is that everyone I speak to understands what the issues are, very understanding of that. I think, again, going back to that communication piece, they just want to know not necessarily what's happening, but, what the expectation is so they know what to do. And we can certainly accommodate that now and going forward.
Right. Now, I'll just add, I know your industry has got to have been one of the most negatively impacted in the country. I mean, there's no doubt. With the supply chain changes, right. I know within the neighborhoods, people remodeling their houses, the bulk waste and stuff like that, but also just the change where so much of it was commercial office buildings and things like that. And with people working from home and not going to the offices, their waste disposal has changed dramatically. And so I know you've been in a tough position. I appreciate the fact that you're actually working on the communication, because a lot of, as council members, a lot of us are directly getting comments and things like that. And then it's not that it's an imposition on us, it's just, it's not very efficient to reach out to us where we have to reach out to Tom's department and things like that. So I think that's brilliant to be able to text or communicate directly with the customers that you're serving. I think that will go a long way, because most of the frustration isn't just from the service disruptions, it's from the lack of knowing when somebody will come by.
Right.
You know? And doing that one at a time is inefficient and very logistically difficult. So thank you. I do appreciate it. Hopefully everything that y'all are doing will help resolve this very quickly. But we understand the pressure y'all are under, and we understand that it's vital, the job you do for our community, because it is a real mess to look around the country and see other communities that aren't getting served even as well as we are. So
Yeah.
I
Thank
do
you, Mayor.
appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Just so the public will know, this isn't a voting item. This isn't a business item. We were just going to give Mr. Martin an opportunity to come talk about the service that they're delivering and the issues that they've had for public knowledge. And if any of you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us or Mr. Martin directly to follow up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Tom, is there anything you wanted to add to this? Thank you very much. Second service provider partnership and update will be for Tech Alpharetta. Ms. Cashin, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. May, Council. Before I get started, I did want to introduce you first to Jade Rogers. Many of you may have met her. She joined as our Deputy Director of Tech Alpharetta last summer. Is doing a great job. Next, I want to introduce you to Bob Tupin. He is CIO of Jackson Healthcare and a member of our board. And he's going to say a few introductory remarks before we get into running through the slides for tonight's update.
Thanks, Karen. So I have the privilege of working at one of the best companies in Alpharetta, Jackson Healthcare. And now I'm on the board for one of the best organizations. I've been doing this a while. I've been involved with a lot of technology organizations. And I have to tell you, this is something special. Okay, we've got Karen. So special starts right there. But then the relationship we have in partnership with y'all, right? Not many organizations I've even heard of have that relationship with the city. And even our offerings. So it's not just a networking organization where we connect tech executives and tech talent, but we have the Innovation Center. We've got startups based out of that Innovation Center. We do a lot around training and development. And so we, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, we had a value proposition and visioning session. All day, I think there were 12 or 13 of us from the board, and we said, what value do we bring to the city of Alpharetta? At the end of the day, we want to foster, I already forgot it, sorry. We want companies to come to Alpharetta, and companies and their employees, and foster the tech community of Alpharetta. One of the things that recently was published last week is a deal with a company called Serif, thank you. So they're doing a couple of courses for people who want to invest seed money in startups of Alpharetta. So if you're an investor and you don't know how to do it, they're going to have that offering in the courses. In addition to that, they are looking at starting a fund to actually provide seed money from their organization to startups in Alpharetta. So just a great organization. I just want to say a few words and thank Karen for all she's done, and she's going to walk you through a few updates now.
Thanks so much, Bob, and thanks to Jackson Healthcare, one of our founding board members back in 2013.
Thank you.
All right. Got it on. All right. Well, thanks for allowing us to come give an update to you all tonight of our 2021 metrics. As I've often said in the past to you all, Tech Alpharetta is a tech economic development engine for the city of Alpharetta. And we're growing new jobs and new companies for the city. We're helping to attract and retain tech companies in the city, and we're helping and trying our best to attract, retain, and grow skilled tech workforce. any given time, we'll have between 40 and 55 tech startups incubating at our center, creating innovative new technology, most but not all of it, software, what they call B2B software as a service solutions, but we also have some hardware, some drones, some robotics, biotech, and med device as well. Update here since last week, I have 17 have graduated from our incubator since 2015, and late last week, our breaking news was that number 18 has graduated from our incubator. The 17 that had graduated prior to the most recent one have on their own created 831 new tech and service industry jobs for the city and 1,722 new jobs total for the state of Georgia. So that is a heavy piece of economic development for a relatively small organization, I believe. We also help to attract and retain tech companies that are in the city by growing and supporting the thriving tech ecosystem here in Alpharetta. Last year, we hosted the most events ever in our history, 46 events that were attended by 20 tech executives. Most of those executives come from the North Fulton area, this corridor out here, so we are serving the local tech community. Those events also included a first-time golf tournament, which I'll talk a little bit more about later in the slides. Our incubator, as Bob mentioned, has been extremely successful. We provide the programs, the mentoring, the investor connections and introductions, and resources to help our startups grow there. It's a very personalized environment where we provide a lot of one-on-one with the startup founders to do what we can to help them to succeed. We also try to connect them with enterprise companies that can be helpful to their business, and our board companies have been terrific about being part of those introductions. And then, of course, our board. We offer the continued opportunities for board engagement and thought leadership. The board is a phenomenal resource for all of us. And also by offering those opportunities for their engagement and thought leadership, that can help go a long way towards retaining the companies that are the tech companies that are here in Alpharetta that are involved with Tech Alpharetta as they have a member on our board and they're bringing their employees out for our events. And then we're always happy to offer, our board is always happy to offer their assistance with recruiting upon request by the city. And then we are working to help attract, retain, and grow skilled tech workforce for the city by building that ecosystem that I described with the tech thought leadership programs and events and the incubator through our board, and then also through our Tech Alpharetta Women's Forum. We're just launching this Friday a pilot with the Innovation Academy to provide a STEAM mentoring program to a number of their female students at the Innovation Academy, with the idea being that not only do we want to help grow the skilled tech workforce pipeline, but we want to encourage more girls to pursue careers in STEAM. Those are high-paying tech careers. There's still a huge gender disparity, and we feel like it's important to provide role models to mentor some of those girls and help encourage them. So in 2021, COVID definitely presented some continued challenges, but innovation never stops. If anything, it accelerates during periods of challenges. So in 2021, we were fortunate to attract and add 7 new board companies. We finished out 2021 with 34 tech leaders on our board and several business leaders as well. You can see on the slide that's in front of you the new board companies that we added, including Morgan Stanley, which acquired the E-Trade division that was in Alpharetta. Ciox Health, Right Now Solutions, Mastery, which is a supply chain and logistics startup, Global Payments, Restore Point, Taylor English Law Firm, and we've just added Pfizer and EY. So the tech verticals that are now represented on our board, and that's something that we strive for, to have a good balance of tech verticals represented on our board so that we're hearing the true perspective of the tech community. You can see we've got a great breakdown here across the board from data center, communications, fintech, gaming, infrastructure, transportation, et cetera. Just added our first biotech, as I mentioned, through Pfizer and EY. Their focus is going to be on EVs and transportation. So we're excited to hear a diversity of tech industry perspectives from our board members. You can also see on the next slide our board of directors as of December 31st, and it doesn't stay static for long. We're constantly recruiting more board companies because we constantly have more tech companies moving to Alpharetta and growing here. So in addition to the 34 tech company leaders, diversity is a very important initiative for all of us. Our board now has 49% women and persons of color on it, stats that we're very proud of, and strong market representation across enterprise, mid-market, and emerging company levels, again, so that we can hear diversity of perspectives. A couple of highlights for you all, and feel free to stop me at any time if you've got questions about what I'm covering. But we added 8 new sponsor companies in 2021. As I mentioned, we went from 22 events in 2019 to 46 events in 2021, serving the 2,000 area tech execs. Our first ever golf tournament last fall sold out and unfortunately was rained out, but that is not dissuading us. We're hosting our second annual golf classic this fall at the Manor on September 19th. And we're really looking forward to that because we had a great response from the tech community last time. Now 18 startup grads, and 4 of our startup grads are actively hiring, and that seems to be a trend. At any given time, there's at least 4 of our grads hiring in Alpharetta. Currently, Data Sears, Soul Microgrid, Finisec, and Variable, 4 of our grads that are all actively hiring. Startup funding, and actually an update there. Now, Voxy is our 18th graduate. They did half of their Series A last January of $6.7 million, and then they just closed out the second half of their Series A and announced it last week, which was a $25 million Series A. So they've raised about $32 million in funding, and they are our newest graduate company. We're thrilled to have them here. That's a marketing technology company with a platform that's doing phenomenally well and enjoying a growth rate of 320% just in 2021. To date, our startups have raised over $182 million in investor funding since the incubator opened in 2015, which is a long way from the early days of the incubator when it would have been a small miracle for somebody to even get a check for $250,000. So that's great progress in our opinion. Financial update for 2021, we again, as we did in 2020, we exceeded our 2021 revenue projections. We beat our 2021 expense projections. We showed a net profit, and we showed a record level of sponsorship revenue at 172% of projections. So despite the pandemic and the challenges it has posed to us, like every business, we finished out the year extremely strong. You can see our condensed financials up here on this slide, just to show you the trending from 2017 when I had come aboard to today. We've had a steady growth trajectory in our cash revenue, and we appreciate the City of Alpharetta's annual support, which helps enable us to run the incubator and our programs. Combined revenue has continued to increase, even as the city's support of us has decreased somewhat over the years. We voluntarily took a cut in funding from the city when the pandemic hit. And our expenses, we continue to beat our expense projections. In-kind sponsorships, we work really hard and do a lot of hustling to have sponsors that are willing to provide in-kind services. That makes a huge difference from us from a PR, video, webmaster, and other standpoint. So we're very, very pleased with the actual results of our financials for 2021. Any questions on that slide?
Any questions? I don't have any questions, but I want to stop you here for a second because I've been grinning ever since I saw the $182 million of investor funding received. Because I just have to say, I remember back before there was a Tech Alpharetta, when we were just trying as a council and as a community to create what you've been able to create as an organization over the last 10 years. And it was at Rome when they'd meet on Friday mornings.
That's right.
And you generally had about 9 innovative startup people who just sat there and griped for about 2.5 hours how they couldn't get any funding.
That's right.
So you've come a long way.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I always like to provide these metrics at a glance slide just to show you how we did goal versus actual. With the exception of 2 items that we couldn't meet due to COVID last year, we either met or exceeded all of our goals from the incubator side. Our startup members, we're at 41 now, but we try to graduate at least 2 a year. We don't have a lot of control over it, but we do whatever we can from a resource and programming standpoint to help the startups along. We have an excellent relationship, which we so appreciate with the City of Alpharetta's economic development team. They're wonderful partners for us, and I'm just thrilled with the collaboration. We couldn't do lunch and learns last year because of COVID, but we replaced those with 141 virtual workshops, programs, and third-party meetups. And we couldn't do VC firm in-person visits, so we held a program instead. I already covered the funding, and you can see we've exceeded what we were aiming for on meetups. High school interns, that's a high point for me, as something near and dear to my heart. We work with Fulton County Schools Talented and Gifted program, and this started out as just trying to place 1 or 2 of their interns a few years ago with our startups. Last year, we placed 35 high school students with our startups and internship positions, which is wonderful for the students and really helpful for the startups as well. You know, continuing to host the monthly tech meetups, the free law firm office hours. We had the Development Authority out last September for a tour and to meet some of our startups, and our mentoring program is still going strong. So those are our incubator metrics. Our branding and PR metrics, as you guys know from being flooded with our e-newsletters and social media posts, we're quite relentless in our promotion of Tech Alpharetta and the City of Alpharetta. And thanks to our PR firm, Trevelino Keller, and our video sponsor, V-Link Solutions, we're able to provide a very, very heavy level of social media posts, press releases, blogs, and put out other new content out there. So you can see the social media posts, 713 last year. Media impressions came in just under 20 million, but still almost 19 million. We had 522, which is an all-time high of news articles quoting or mentioning Tech Alpharetta last year, 2 articles that I had published. We well exceeded our blog quotient. Our podcast series is going great. We released 8 episodes in 2021, and it's called Driving Innovation because it focuses on the people and companies that are driving innovation in the City of Alpharetta. And those are a lot of fun. Executive spotlight videos. We try to feature mainly our board members who are tech leaders in their own right in our spotlight videos. And then, you know, the steady stream of press releases announcing graduates, golf tournaments, and other notable news. 46 tech events, like I mentioned. Tremendous number of partnerships. That is key to the success of this organization, is getting out and hustling and meeting the leaders of other organizations and devising partnerships. And we send out 2 newsletters a week, so that's 104 last year, and had 6 metro area speaking engagements. So it was a busy year for the PR. And then last but definitely not least, the board metrics. We held all of our board meetings last year. We always do. The only thing that we didn't meet was committee meetings, and that was intentional. In the 4th quarter, we suspended committee meetings as we held our board and Tech Alpharetta visioning sessions to decide on restructuring the committees and to talk about new initiatives for 2022. But as I mentioned, 34 tech company leaders on our board as of the end of last year, and 3 non-tech company approved execs. We have 4 of Alpharetta's 5 largest employers serving on our board today. That's 80%. And 100% of our new board companies sponsor, other than the few, we have a couple of startups on the board to get their perspective, and they're exempt given the fact that they're still in early stage and don't have money. 50%, our goal was 50% of all board companies to sponsor in 2019, 75% in 2020 and thereafter, and today we're at 92%. 84% of those are cash sponsors, the remainder of them are in kind. And you can see all the way over to the left there, our board companies' level of financial participation has grown from 17,500 in 2018 to 168,000 in 2021. So those are our metrics. I wanted to share those with you. You can see we started with 0 sponsors in 2017. We have 46 today. The majority of those are recognizable household names. So we are grateful to all of you guys for making this possible. Really appreciate your support, the economic development team's support, city staff support, and we're full steam ahead for 2022. We've restructured our committees, and as Bob mentioned, we had a fantastic two fantastic visioning sessions, have come up with a value proposition, have a new investor series going on. We are going to be the recipient of Morgan Stanley's Code to Give hackathon that starts up at the end of March to benefit two nonprofits, and we were one of the two chosen, so we're excited about that. They're going to create an app for us to help us to scale our STEAM mentoring program so that we can ultimately grow it beyond just one high school. So we're keeping busy.
Is that all?
That's it for today.
Councilman
We
Hypes?
answer questions.
No questions, Ms. Cashin, but I love this figure about board-level financial participation because I remember when I was just a brand-new council member in 2018, we shared some ideas about Tech Alpharetta.
That's right.
And to see 17,500 from that year versus 168, that's all your leadership. And you really have taken the bull by the horns, and you got skin in the game from the tech community. And we talked about that at the table, and you really have you've advanced the ball down the field a lot. I mean, this is amazing. So, and I think back in 2018, trying to tell the story of how Tech Alpharetta is benefiting Alpharetta, this presentation, of the metrics, it paints a real clear picture, and I just want to commend you. I mean, the numbers don't lie, and those are great numbers, and those are great board members and representatives, and I think you got a board where if somebody's not on it, they want to be on it.
Yes.
As opposed to you're going out and trying to beg somebody to join your board, and so you've just done an outstanding job, and thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you. I appreciate that. We do. We have a fantastic board. We're very, very fortunate. They're highly engaged, and they sincerely share my passion for the technology community and growing this ecosystem that we have here in Alpharetta. So I'm thankful to them for that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Congratulations. Can't wait to see what happens next year.
Thank you.
So that will wrap up the service provider and partnership updates. And we'll move on to the next portion of tonight's meeting, which is old business. First item under old business is PH-21-17 Unified Development Code, UDC text amendments, downtown sign code. This is second reading. Ms. Cook, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes from the first reading, but I can answer any questions you may have, but we don't have any changes.
Any questions from council? I see no questions. Mr. Stacy, we have an ordinance that must be read.
An ordinance to amend Article 2 of the Unified Development Code of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to add a definition for channel letter sign, to add prohibited signs in the downtown overlay, to add sign regulations for signs permitted in the downtown overlay, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. Since this is second reading, there will be no public comment, no changes. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, make a motion that council approve the text amendments to the Unified Development Code, Section 2.6 signs, and add the regulations pertaining to signs in the downtown overlay, and adopt the ordinance with those amendments as referenced by City Attorney Stacy.
We have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Will, and that was to approve PH-21-17 Unified Development Code text amendment changes, downtown sign code, in the second reading as read by City Attorney Mike Stacy. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. That'll wrap up that item, and we'll move on to the approval of the fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget amendment. This is also the second reading. Director Harris, you have the floor on this one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading of the mid-year, 2022 mid-year budget amendment. We talked in detail at the retreat about these items, and we also had it at the first reading. So there's been no changes to the.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Stacy, could you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, to adopt a mid-year fiscal 2022 budget for certain funds of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, appropriating the amounts shown in each budget as expenditures, adopting the item of revenue anticipation, prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations, and prohibiting expenditures to exceed actual funding available.
Thanks, sir. Since this is second reading, there's no public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to adopt a mid-year fiscal 2022 budget for certain funds of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, appropriating the amounts shown in each budget as expenditures, adopting the item of revenue anticipation, prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations, and prohibiting expenditures to exceed actual funding available.
Have a motion by Councilman Dorito and a second by Councilman Mitchell. And that was to approve the fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget amendment as read by City Attorney Mike Stacy. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the mid-year budget amendment, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And that does pass unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Harris. That'll wrap up old business for this evening, and we'll move on to new business. First item under new business will be the stormwater structure, MS4, inventory inspections.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the MS4 inventory inspections. We're required to inspect 20% of our infrastructure, existing infrastructure by per the state requirements. That is part of this contract, as well as we have our MS4 reporting requirements, so doing some of the write-up for that, as well as some detention pond inspections of our city properties, anything stormwater related in our city inventory that's on our public property. It's all covered under these inspections. It is a 5-year contract. It was first done in 2020, and we have a couple more years. They are hourly rates. They are unit price, so think of this as more of a cafeteria plan if you want. If we have to do more inspections in one area than it's listed here, we just use those funds accordingly. And if we have to get additional funds, we'll go through the budget process for that.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council on this item? Thank you very much. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve stormwater structure MS4 inventory inspections. Approve the funding amount of not to exceed $118,310 to sustainable water planning and engineering for on-call stormwater MS4 inspections, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
We have a motion by Councilman Dorito and a second by Councilman Will, and that was to approve the funding in amount not to exceed $118,310 to sustainable water planning and engineering for the on-call stormwater MS4 inspections, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Pete. We appreciate it. Second item under new business will be the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with North Fulton Community Improvement District, the Alpha Loop Tunnel.
Alpha Loop, yes. On the screen is the conceptual layout of the Alpha Loop Tunnel, and the tunnel is depicted in the lower corner right there. Last month at the North Fulton CID board meeting, Chris Winslow of the CID staff presented the tunnel project to her board. Her board was very enthusiastic about the project. I had several questions about our timing of our current phasing from North Winds, our Chelsea Walk subdivision and North Winds. Informed them we should be going out to bid in the next couple of months through an RFP process. And then we have funding available through both T-SPLOS as well as the Parks bond. And when they heard that there was funding available for the Parks bond, 7.5 million that could be towards the tunnel project, they became a little more enthusiastic, and they gave the direction to have staff from the CID as well as the city to work out a MOU, memorandum of understanding, that if the CID funds the design of the tunnel, that we would allocate our funds that's part of the bond towards the construction of the tunnel. In other words, they didn't want to spend $800,000, they just have the plan sit on the shelf. Can understand completely. So that's before you tonight.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate all the work you put in on this one. It's been a while, and I do appreciate CID participating in this effort. Any questions from council at this time? Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this memorandum of understanding with the North Fulton CID about the Alpha Loop Tunnel, now's your chance. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Do I have a motion from council? Going once?
Mayor, I'll move to approve a memorandum of understanding between North Fulton Community Improvement District and City of Alpharetta pertaining to the NFCID designing and Alpharetta constructing a tunnel on the Haynes Bridge Road for the Alpha Loop, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary items.
I have a motion by Councilman Dorito, a second by Councilman Hypes. And that was to approve the memorandum of understanding between the North Fulton Community Improvement District and the City of Alpharetta pertaining to the NFCID designing and Alpharetta constructing a tunnel under Haynes Bridge Road for the Alpha Loop, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary items. Any discussion? Great job, man. This is exciting. If this thing ever does get constructed and dug through there, it's going to be a big change for the Alpha Loop. It's going to connect the east and the west, and that's going to be great.
And the North Fulton CID is probably going to hear this at their next meeting, which will be March 1st, I think is that Tuesday.
Fantastic. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Third item under new business will be the contract for wire and wood, talent buying, management, stage, lighting, and sound. Director Rogers, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
After all this time, you get to come up here and talk about fun stuff.
Some fun stuff. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight. We are seeking approval for the contract for production services for the Wire and Wood, annual Wire and Wood Festival for the next 5 years, for stage, lighting, and sound services, as well as management services. An RFP was published in conjunction with our department and the finance department seeking vendors for this. It's basically to seek the stage, the sound, lighting, talent buying services, and the management. We had 27 documents. The document was downloaded 27 times, but we only had 2 actual bidders. Those 2 companies were rated based on their proposals on company information, project team resumes, qualifications, technical proposals, approach processes, cost proposals, and the local vendor preference. And we had 2 companies, RSC Productions. They scored 93.24 out of a possible 100 points, and the other one was In-Depth Events, and they scored 62 points out of 100. We are recommending tonight that RCS Production, the one with the highest rating, be awarded this contract. We have worked with RCS now, I think, 7 years in a row. We have nothing but good things to say about them. They're an outstanding company. They deliver the right equipment, and they do an outstanding job. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have about this.
Any questions from council at this time? Great job, sir.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward, speak on the approval of the RFP for wire and wood, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that council award RFP number 22-108 to RCS Productions for wire and wood event production services, including talent buying and management services, as well as stage lighting and sound services, in an amount not to exceed $75,000 for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Will, and that was to award RFP number 22-108 RCS Productions for wire and wood event production services, including talent buying and management services, as well as stage lighting and sound services, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents in an amount not to exceed $75,000. Any discussion? Councilman Hypes.
Mr. Mayor, as a resident of the city, I can't tell you how excited it is to sit up here and talk about planning wire and wood for October later in this year. It is absolutely, unquestionably one of my favorite events, and so it's on the schedule for October 7 and 8. And Alpharetta never really left, but we can certainly say Alpharetta's back coming through COVID, and I'm excited that we're going to have this event going forward once again in the fall, and all those great people and music in downtown.
Any other discussion? I'll just agree with Councilman Hypes. It was a tremendous event back in October at a time when our community really needed a tremendous event. I look forward to being there next October as well. That being said, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Next item up under new business is the Windward LCI application. Ms. Cook, you have the floor, and you might want to start off for the public by explaining what an LCI is.
Thank you, Mayor. The Atlanta Regional Commission's ARC, Livable Centers, is a grant program that incentivizes local jurisdictions to re-envision their communities as vibrant, walkable places that offer increased mobility options, encourage healthy lifestyles, and provide improved access to jobs and services. The City of Alpharetta partnered with the City of Milton in 2011 to complete the LCI study for the Windward Highway 9 area. And there was a plan that was adopted in 2012 that detailed the vision for the future of the study area. And that's based on a planning process that includes a lot of input from the community leaders, also a core team of stakeholders that was put together. And then, of course, we had a series of public workshops. And when you're looking at the map, the one that we adopted in 2012 is the area shown in red. So it was just to the west of 400. And you can see the darker red, of course, is City of Alpharetta. So the majority at that time was within City of Milton. And, of course, the character throughout, along Highway 9, as well as Windward Parkway, it's different character areas. And we had broken it out into character areas in 2012. We did have a discussion with the Atlanta Regional Commission as to whether we could change the boundaries for our 10-year update. So we're actually going to be applying, if council is agreeable for the 10-year update. So we would add the area that's to the west of 400 that's shown in yellow. It's a larger area, but it just...
I think you meant the east?
I'm sorry, yes, to the east.
Just wanted to clarify.
So it's a larger area, but it's important to have the entire Windward Parkway corridor that includes all of the commercial to the east and to the west of 400. Also, as you know, it's a corridor that's planned to receive a BRT station related to the Georgia 400 Major Mobility Investment Program, the GDOT program, as well as with current development trends, which are moving away from big box stores and separated land uses. The Windward Parkway corridor, Highway 9 area, we believe requires an updated community vision and action plan, which is achievable through the 10-year update. The North Fulton CID did state that they would sponsor the plan update with support from the cities of Alpharetta and Milton. Applications are due to the Atlanta Regional Commission on February 28th, and with project announcements anticipated in April or May to see if we're successful. The ARC requires a minimum of 20% match, and based on our estimated project budget of $250,000, if we're successful, we would receive $200,000 from the Atlanta Regional Commission. The $50,000 required match, the CID has stated that they would provide $20,000 of that if the cities would agree to $15,000 apiece. So of the $250,000, the request is for a $15,000 match. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Any questions from council on this item? Must have done a great job. There were no questions. Mr. Stacy, do you mind, excuse me, reading the resolution?
A resolution to authorize the mayor and city council to approve the submission of the Windward Highway 9 LCI update grant application to the Atlanta Regional Commission. Whereas the Alpharetta City Council adopted the Windward Highway 9 LCI plan in 2012, and whereas ARC provides local assistance programs to implement facets of the LCI within the designated study area, including the LCI program and Community Development Assistance Program, CDAP, and whereas the city of Alpharetta seeks to participate in the LCI program to prepare an update to the Windward Highway 9 LCI area, and whereas evidence authorizing the acceptance of said application must be provided, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta hereby that the submission of the Windward Highway 9 LCI grant application is hereby approved, and if awarded, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute award package with directives under the LCI program, and it is further hereby resolved that the mayor and council do hereby acknowledge and agree to provide their portion of a cash match equivalent to 20% of the total study amount to be divided between the city of Milton and the North Fulton CID.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone wants to come forward and speak on the Windward LCI application, now's your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the authorization for submittal of the Windward Highway 9 Master Plan LCI update grant application to the Atlanta Regional Commission.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Will, a second by Councilman Mitchell, and that was to approve the authorization of the submittal of the Windward Highway 9 Master Plan LCI update grant application to the Atlanta Regional Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Final item up under new business this evening is the resolution opposing HB 1093 and SB 494 and opposing limitations on a municipality's authority to make housing, land use, and zoning decisions within a local government's geographical boundaries. Bob Regas, I believe you have the floor on this one. At least according to my agenda.
Is this better?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is a House bill and Senate bill that GMA and other cities are opposing. It would, in effect, give corporations the opportunity to develop subdivisions, developments, single-family homes for purely rental purposes. And it would really take a lot of the discretion away from a governing body to regulate and have control over the rezoning of these developments. So don't see much of an upside to supporting the legislation. Because there's fear that rental properties would not be kept up the way other properties would. There would just be more of a transient, if you will, folks coming in and out. So it wouldn't look like or feel like the rest of the, I'll call them subdivision developments that we typically think of.
And if I recall in the discussion we had with the other North Fulton mayors last week, one of the challenges was that as communities are trying to develop single-family, owner-occupied, affordable housing, the challenge is they're being priced out of the market by large funds and corporations that are getting the ROI, which is a great business decision for them. But when you've got a young family trying to start out, they can't compete in a bidding war with a large financial institution. Is that part of the discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. It's really, it's two components. One would be what you just said about the pricing out in the market, both in ownership and rental. The other is this idea that a property owner is allowed to make any decision they want to make with their property as far as development without the interference of the local government. And while that's been pegged as an issue of local control, the real local control, as we know, is the local government having a steady hand and involvement in how these properties develop. Certainly there's not a negative view of rental properties inherently, but the city has spent the last however many years trying to develop a reasonable balance between both owner-occupied and rental, understanding that they impact the community in different ways and both are necessary, but they need to be controlled and contained within reasonable boundaries. This would remove this council and any other municipality's ability to do that in large effect.
Thanks, sir. And after that wonderful explanation, if you don't mind, could you read the resolution?
A resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, opposing HB 1093 and SB 494 and opposing limitations on a municipality's authority to make housing, land use, and zoning decisions within a local government's geographical boundaries. Whereas the Mayor and City Council for the City of Alpharetta, Georgia City have reviewed HB 1093 and SB 494 bills currently being considered in the Georgia General Assembly, and whereas the bills would prohibit local governments from addressing newly developed corporate rental subdivisions through any regulation, restriction, or condition that is not the same for single-family residential areas, and whereas the bills are aimed at allowing unlimited access for corporations to develop build-to-rent subdivisions which vary greatly in price, quality, management, and tenant protections, and whereas the city opposes the bills for a number of reasons, including the fact that the Georgia Constitution recognizes zoning and land use decisions are core functions of local governments, and housing is a large component of those decisions, and whereas local elected officials are responsible for ensuring affordable, predictable housing options within their respective communities, and whereas such housing and land use decisions are best made at the local level through comprehensive planning and citizen input, and whereas to ensure vibrant and sustainable communities, local governments require flexibility to decide what is appropriate for their communities' neighborhoods, and whereas no city or county in the state of Georgia has taken action to limit the rights of a homeowner to rent out property through a long-term lease agreement, and whereas home ownership is a financial asset that historically has been affordable to all economic levels, and whereas rising costs in construction, land, and materials are pushing the reality of home ownership further from the reach of more and more Americans, particularly young families, and whereas home ownership and growing equity value it provides as a source of capital for families to start businesses, send children to college, build retirement nest eggs, provide financial resources during financial emergencies, offer an asset to provide services such as assisted living or nursing care, or cover a myriad of other financial and economic resources to weather life challenges, and whereas these and other benefits are why preserving opportunities for home ownership has long been a high priority of public policy in the United States, and whereas good public policy requires a balance of housing options to meet individual needs, however the bills remove local decision-making from the type and mix of housing available, and whereas the superiority of local determination of the type of housing available in a community is one reason why local government control of zoning and land use is enshrined in Georgia state constitution, and whereas the removal of local oversight and the negating of local policy goals inherent in the bills allows outside forces to determine the type of housing available in a community with no need to work with existing community stakeholders wishing to have a voice in the process, and whereas protecting property rights is an important component of good public policy, but good public policy also also takes into consideration the property rights, property values, and the neighborhood characteristics that purchasers relied on when investing their life savings in their current home. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, that this governing body hereby objects to and opposes any legislation or act limiting a local government's authority to make land use and zoning decisions within its geographical boundaries. And be it further hereby resolved that a copy of this resolution be delivered to each member of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate representing the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, and made available for distribution to the public and the press.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council at this time? Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this bill, now's your opportunity. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, opposing HB 1093 and SB 494, and opposing limitations on a municipality's authority to make housing, land use, and zoning decisions within a local government's geographical boundaries.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Dorito, and I'll give that one by a hair to Councilman Mitchell. And that was to approve the resolution opposing HB 1093 and SB 494 and opposing limitations on a municipality's authority to make housing, land use, and zoning decisions within a local government's geographical boundaries as read in the resolution by City Attorney Mike Stacy. Councilman Hypes.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to comment on this. First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor and staff, for bringing this forward to bring attention to these bills that are down at the state legislature. There has been an increase in recent years, and this is another example of the state legislature seeking to deprive local governments, including Alpharetta, of some of their core priorities and core functions, of which land use is one. I don't believe any of our residents look to our state legislatures for land use issues. They look to the government that's closest to them, those who elect us here locally. If they do not like our land use decisions, they're free to replace us. And a legislator, a state legislator in southern Georgia, you know, has different set of priorities for their communities versus what our community is. Our residents know what's best for our community, and it's troubling to see the state legislature seeking to pass these bills depriving local governments in Alpharetta of the right to determine land use issues such as the one that is in this particular bill being put forward. I feel quite certain that our state legislators don't like our federal legislators in Washington, D.C. telling them how to run the state of Georgia. For this council member, it is not appreciated that state legislators are seeking to dictate how we should be running our cities.
Councilman Mitchell.
I cannot agree more with those comments. Last year at this time, when the legislation was in session, we were dealing with a city in Winterville, and it prompted it because they determined that the homes, if you remember, couldn't build on a slab. They wanted a certain style of home, and they wanted to limit our ability to ask for brick and stone in our own community. And it's very frustrating that our state legislature would rather do what lobbying groups, the construction group, the builders association, all that, they're funneling money into the state legislature. And these bills continue to get on their docket, and it's ridiculous because it takes the local economy away from elected officials who are elected by the people to determine what their community will look like, and why our state government continues to foster these bills, just like the billboard bill, which we've got the ugliest state along state highways because we allow all these billboards throughout our state. Other states don't allow that, but because the lobbying group is strong in that area, we have to put up with all those signs and advertising all kind of things. And, but back to the builders, we have to really keep an eye on our state legislature to make sure they're not doing these kind of things behind our backs. And I also would like to recognize the GMA for standing up for this one. Thank you.
And Councilman Dorito.
You know, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed that of our state legislature that there are folks, elected leaders in the state that would even put a bill like this forward. This is government run amok. I mean, the best government is the government closest to the people that they serve. And this is completely opposite of that concept. The other concern I have when you look at the contents of the bill, it leaves the door wide open for, if these were to pass, of developers to do whatever they want within the confines of the city of Alpharetta, and our inability then to protect our citizens from the impacts of improper development that this city has fought for years to protect. I know the issue hidden in these bills has to do with affordable housing and trying to provide options. I think this city council and our professional staff and everyone within city government here is very capable of managing through that need for our city. And in fact, we've had discussions on it. Previous councils had discussions on it. We're not oblivious to it, but we also are trying to maintain a sense of keeping our community at a level of, that we want to live in, to retain the quality of development in this city. And we can't solve everyone's problems, but we certainly can deal with the rental market in Alpharetta. I know we have some developments coming for council in the near future that might be able to give us some flexibility to address that issue. I, for one, trust this mayor and this city council and our professionals in city government to do the right thing by its citizens, protect the investments of current homeowners, and these bills are a travesty if they were to pass, and it's an embarrassment that anyone in state government is wasting their time trying to shove this down our throats.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Those in favor of the resolution to oppose HB 109 and SB 494 as read in the resolution by City Attorney Mike Stacy, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. So that will wrap up the new business portion of tonight's meeting. As always, we'll allow public comment. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards this evening?
Yes, sir. We have Elaine Morgan of 245 Meadow Drive. If you'd like to come forward and address Mayor and City Council at the podium.
Hello, everyone. I am here as an advocate for my neighborhood, which is the Meadowbrooks Hills area behind this new STEM high school. I wanted to acknowledge that I sent an email sharing some background and some context and a video that a neighbor had provided to give you a sense of some of the concern in our neighborhood around flooding. We had a community meeting with the community development team in early February, and I think that that meeting was initially really focused on just some of the new development, the size and dimension of the new homes. And it turned into a very, very passionate exchange about water issues and flooding, some very, very serious issues. And I was surprised, candidly, when we started the discussion just in the spirit of sharing and sharing information, the extent of the flooding and the extent of the water concerns that have been shared and expressed for many, many years. So I'm here to advocate for additional sharing of information. We'd like to have an additional forum that's very focused on that issue so that our residents can express their concerns, express their experience, express the simply the extent of the of the issues that they've had over the past several years. We're just here to ensure that we continue to keep it visible, that we continue to have eyes on it, that we have a voice in the community. And certainly if there's any updates or information that we can take back to the community, we'd like to do that. If not, we're simply asking for another forum to have those conversations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is a public comment portion, so it's not like a back and forth question and answer session. I will explain that we are well aware of those issues. Our staff has been researching options. Unfortunately, there's not any easy or good or cheap options, or we'd already be addressing them with you. So we are evaluating those. We've had meetings with all of the council members at some point, and we're getting prepared once staff makes their recommendations to hold a forum, whether it's a public workshop in a city council meeting like this or a more informal session like was hosted before. We're going to make sure that we share that information and we discuss all the options available. So thank you for coming forward. We appreciate it, and we will be in touch. Thank you. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any other public comment cards?
No, sir, we do not.
But if anyone else here would like to come forward, now is the public comment portion. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do we have any reports this evening? I assume we do not. With that being said, then, I will ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Dorito, a second by Councilman Hypes. All those in favor of adjourning into executive session, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. We are adjourning. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll hope to see you again soon.